Welcome to Community Forum, a service of CAN TV. I'm your host, Juan Carlos Hernandez. Art has the power to transform lives, such as the belief of St. Francis of Assisi. In his time, he renewed the Roman Catholic Church, and one of his instruments of change was music. In Chicago, the Franciscan ministry Chiesa Nuova aims to change the world through beauty and offers the community great music to that end. Today, our guests, Father Robert M. Hutmacher and pianist Chris White, talk about Chiesa Nuova. Chris also performs for us. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, let's start with your organization, Father Robert. Tell us about Chiesa Nuova and how that idea was born.
It was born from a dream I had, a big Jungian dream, a number of years ago about establishing a Franciscan place for the arts, someplace in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it goes all the way back to the mid-'80s. And so through working for a number of years, we established ourselves as a not-for-profit organization in 1996 and have been going there ever since. You know, we have a place in the West Loop area where a lot of our performances are, but it really comes out, the name of it is the name of a church in Assisi where it's built on top of the home of St. Francis. And I lived there and worked there doing research in medieval music over the years. So it's a transplant from Assisi to Chicago.
The transplant of a dream. Did you have that dream when you were in Assisi in Italy?
I did indeed. It was St. Francis and me, and he guided my hand and showed me a house across the stream, and millions of music notes came out of it, the chimney, and he gave me a bag, and all the notes went here into this bag, and he gave me the bag and said, now go to Chicago and build Chiesa Nuova there, which means the new church. And our interpretation of that is not so much a building as a place and a whole different way of being church and bringing people to God through the arts.
Interesting. So tell me, the Franciscan order is known for having this connection with the arts. Why and how did that come about?
Well, it came from Francis himself. He was well educated as a sort of upper middle class young man, and he was a musician, he was a writer, he was a poet, one of the first to write in his Umbrian dialect, which gave birth, along with Dante, to modern Italian.
Interesting.
It is fascinating.
Wow. And Chris, tell us about how you became connected to Chiesa Nuova and what road led you to Chicago, because you're originally from Canada, right?
Yeah, I was actually raised in Toronto, Canada, born in the States. So I am technically American. Okay. I like to say I'm Canadian because it's so much a part of me. It's so much part of my upbringing that I feel in many ways Canadian. Well, Bob found me on the internet. So I was very fortunate to be found, and I have done 2 performances, correct, at Chiesa Nuova. And I guess I'll get into that later. You asked about my schooling or how I got.
The road that led to Chicago from.
The road to led to Chicago is a little convoluted. I did my undergraduate degree from the University of Toronto, not in music. It was in English, right? At that time, I'd always been playing, but I wasn't sure if I could truly make a living performing my kind of music, which is jazz piano. So on a whim, after I finished my undergraduate degree, I applied to Indiana University, really one of the top music schools. I didn't think I'd get in, but I had a very good audition, and I was admitted, and I did my master's degree there, and I was in Bloomington for 3 years. I graduated and didn't know where I was going next, so I looked at a map and I said, Chicago, that looks like it might be a great place to work. It's a big city, and I maybe knew one person that lived here. So after I graduated, I just packed my car up and moved here, and I've been here for 13 years, and I love it. It's a great place for the arts and music, and yeah, a lot of great things.
Awesome. So now you're performing here at several places, and actually we taped you earlier, and we're going to hear one of your pieces right now.
All right.
We're going to hear All the Way, okay, and we'll hear that now. Well, thanks for that. It's a beautiful piece. We'll hear a couple more during the show. I want to come back to the Franciscan spirit. It's not just music for music's sake, right? It's also music because of the effect it can have on people and I guess make them change. Either of you can take this question, but I guess we could start with...
What is it about music?
Yeah, what is it about music?
Well, it's a right brain activity, and that's where, in the affective domain, it's naturally very emotional, and it's very incredibly expressive. As you know, anybody knows, music can, you don't need words, it can say anything and everything around the world. It's pan-cultural, it's just a magical part of human nature.
Why has that become such a big part of Franciscan spirituality? Again,
because of Francis and his love for creation, his love for everything holy, everything beautiful, and he even used the word beauty as an ascription for God. So he saw God reflected in absolutely everything around him, including the arts, and that from him on, he died in 1226, that has been part of the Franciscan legacy. There have always been friars involved in the fine arts, every form.
Every form, not just music. But in Chiesa Nuova, that's what you've been focusing on.
We focus on music mainly because of the size of the room. We don't have the room for theatrical productions yet, or dance, but we certainly have had lots of musicians. We've worked with over 500 over the years.
Wow, wow. Now, Chris, once Father Robert found you and invited you to become part of it, I guess you feel part of it now, of Chiesa Nuova?
I do, yeah. I've had 2 performances there, and I'm having another one at the end of August, so I feel very much a part of it, yeah.
Tell me about, compare your experiences there with your experiences in your performances around the city at hotels and bars.
It's a completely different energy, and a very good energy. It's the kind of environment I want to be in because it's an intimate setting, and the pianos are beautiful. It's a Schimmel upright, and I'm lucky that you have such a great instrument. So yeah, and it's in tune. Not every place I play actually has an in tune piano. There's some places that have clunkers, and it doesn't make for a very good experience. But when you have that kind of combination, you have an intimate setting, an attentive audience, and a piano that's beautiful and in tune, then you feel comfortable, and then I feel like I can express myself a lot better when I have those factors. So that's the kind of environment I prefer for the kind of music I play.
And how does the audience respond to that? Compare the 2 audiences.
Well, if you're, say, in a hotel bar, many people aren't even listening. And that's because they may not come there to hear live music. That wasn't their purpose to begin with. So they don't even know sometimes that there are performers there when they walk in. And they just have their conversation and go about their business, and that's fine. It makes it tougher, I think, to be in that environment, but as we have to work, so that's part of what we do. But I prefer a quiet room, an attentive audience, and I can even engage the audience that way. I can tell stories about the music, why I chose certain pieces, things like that.
Okay. We're going to listen to another piece that you performed for us, and the name of this piece is A Day in the Life of a Fool. It's quite an interesting name. Wow, that was a very beautiful piece. Thank you again for that.
You're welcome.
And coming back to the question of audiences and engagement, and we live in such a noisy world, not just with sound, but with visual noise as well, and now with smartphones and iPads and the social networks just pulling at our attention. What is that? How do you answer that challenge as a musician?
Well, you hope it doesn't happen. I mean, again, I see that in certain locations. You're really missing out if you're not paying attention to a story being told, which is what a song is. Every piece has something to say, even without lyrics. For example, the first piece I performed, All the Way, it tells a story about love, and you must love somebody all the way. To truly love them, you need to do that. I think if you're on your cell phone, you're on your iPad, you're missing the point of what somebody is trying to do. Communicate a story, tell a story. So I think it's unfortunate, but it does happen. And again, I like to play in places that people won't do that. It makes for a better concert.
It's one of the joys, both as a performer and artistic director of Chiesa Nuova, that's one of the joys of having a venue like that, where people come to focus solely on this performance. Mm-hmm. And you have rapport with the audience where you can talk or ask questions. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different artistic experience.
Right.
Yeah, and we've had anybody from Grammy winners to world famous opera singers perform, and they all love the intimacy of it. I mean, it's fun to do huge venues, but when you have 30 people in front of you, or even less sometimes.
Even less.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. You hear every note, you experience every single note or every word.
Right.
Wow, that brings me. You mentioned Grammys and the fame that comes with that, and as an artist, I'm sure you can appreciate your name becoming more well known, and I guess gaining more work in that sense. But my question with this whole thing of social networks and this constant noise, what is the place, or how can we make a better place for artists if we're not at a place like Chiesa Nuova? How is a society, as a people, can we create better places and spaces for artists?
Well, we're trying to do that very thing in the near future of enlarging the scope of our ministry, for one thing, but also devoting a space that could handle a larger group of people and an audience, or a larger theater ensemble. So you would have a mixture, but all of it devoted to specifically, I'm here to experience these artists.
Okay, and what do you think we can do? You're a musician yourself. And he's talking about Chiesa Nuova, but you in your daily life as an artist, how do you think you can make a better space for yourself and others?
How can I make a better space?
Yeah.
Specifically, you mean like in terms of where I'm performing, or how I present myself? Presenting,
performing, and also, I guess, engaging with other artists as well.
Well, the internet, there are pros and cons. I think that having the ability to stream music is great. I think the Met in New York streams their operas. That, I think, is a great technology to utilize, and I'd like to see more of that. I would like to do more of that, and I see that being an outlet. In terms of other technologies or use of the internet, that's the tough question. I have to think more about that, but streaming would be one.
Okay.
Thing, so.
It's one of the big questions in the music world right now, is not just things like copyrights, but technically, like the last album I did, you can do so many things with sound waves. You can actually take out mistakes. And so one of the big arguments is this really a recording? Is it live music? Is it science? What is this?
Right. Oh, wow. Wow, that's, we're certainly in a
It's exciting, though, at the same time,
to
see possibilities.
Certainly, a time of revolution.
But nothing takes the place of sitting here listening to somebody like him play.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you both so much for coming. We're going to finish with the piece in just a few minutes. Community Forum is a community service of CAN TV. If your nonprofit organization would like to work with CAN TV, call 312-1400 and ask for nonprofit services. Tune into Community Forum for local issues and concerns every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on CAN TV 21. I'm Juan Carlos Hernandez. Thank you for joining us, and now we do have the final piece by Chris White. Again, thank you so much for coming.